What's going on, guys? Welcome back to #AskGSM here today, episode 398 for Wednesday, July 14th, 2021. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. 2 episodes out from episode 400, which, as I've said before, I'm aiming to make a live episode, which we've gone live for episode 200, 300, the 7-year anniversary last year, because it fell on the exact 7-year anniversary of the show. And now we're hoping to go live for episode 400 in 2 weeks. So that's going to be Wednesday, July 28th. Circle the date, remember the day. It's going to be a big day, episode 400 of the show, which means that we're inching closer towards 500, near 10 years of #AskGSM in 2013, which is fucking crazy. So with all that being said, I'm looking forward to that. Again, not set in stone. I am hoping to do a live #AskGSM that day, so if you want to send in questions in advance, obviously do that. Please do that, so I have some questions to answer anyway. But if you want to join us, even if it's just a few of you, that morning, afternoon, whatever it might be, not exactly sure when I'll be able to do it that day yet. It will be at some point that day. Be sure to join us live, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I enjoy going live and answering your questions live on the air. It's usually a fun time. So join us for that episode 400 in 2 weeks' time on July 28th. Time to be determined. If you want to send a question to this show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM on the Twitter machine. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Find the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself, if you want to leave a question there. And drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. 2 quick orders of business that I do want to get to real quickly. One, Alexis joined me last week for a great episode, one of the longer episodes in recent memory, over an hour and a half of content answering your guys' great questions. So check that out. She was also on WrestleRant Radio. It was our 3-year anniversary last week, and we already told the story on the show last week, but it's technically 2 days, so day 1 was hashtag, and then day 2 fell on WrestleRant Radio, so she was on both. So check out both podcasts, videos, what have you. She was on hashtag answering your guys' questions with me, and then she was on WrestleRant Radio, helped me review Dynamite from Wednesday, the Road Rager episode, which was a lot of fun. So the second thing that I do want to mention, today I'm talking to the Raw Women's Champion, Rhea Ripley. By the time you listen to this, the interview's probably already been conducted and done and whatever. It's going up on Friday on Bleacher Report, and it affects you guys here on the channel because the audio is going up first thing Friday morning. I've already interviewed Rhea Ripley twice in the last year. Once, I think it was probably like the 3rd WWE interview I did last year, back when she was in NXT, coming off her loss of the NXT Women's Championship in NXT at WrestleMania 36. We spoke in May of last year. That interview is already up here on the channel. I published that a few months ago because that was back when I wasn't putting the audio yet here on the channel. That interview is up. The second time we talked, I haven't put up the audio of that yet. I probably will at some point. But the third interview is dropping on Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, very likely on Friday morning, and in article form on Bleacher Report. So stay tuned for that. Rhea's always been has always been very great to talk to. It's always been a blast. In the last year alone, it's crazy. I've interviewed her twice, 3 times including today. Alexis and I had a virtual meet and greet with her that we won through Cricket Wireless back in May of this year. And then we also met her in person at one of the final shows that we attended before the pandemic back on Leap Day in 2020 at an Evolve show. So I've had a lot of interactions with Rhea in the last year and a half, and she's always great. So stay tuned for that on Friday. Let's get to your guys' questions, though, starting with No L from Facebook. Their first question was, now with fans coming back, do you think Roman Reigns will get cheered? Now, that's a good question. I think we all assumed that he would. Like, as soon as he turned heel, I think the first thing we all thought was, oh, great, here we go. Like, after all these years of booing the guy, they finally turned him heel, and now finally fans are going to cheer him. I was expecting that, and I do think people will cheer him. I don't think it's going to be overly negative, but I will tell you this. At WrestleMania, when he came out, and Roman is still in the peak of his popularity, doing amazing work right now, going into WrestleMania, he had never been hotter. And I'm thinking, even with Bryan and Edge in there, I'm thinking he's going to get cheered, even over Edge and Bryan. Like, I figured that's why they put Edge and Bryan in there, to kind of swell down the cheers for Roman Reigns. Even if either one of those guys wasn't in there, I still thoroughly believe he would have gotten booed, was Roman Reigns. Like, I was there in person, I can tell you firsthand, he got booed more than anyone else in the match. People were cheering him. I mean, Roman Reigns is doing great work right now. He's got the great entrance, obviously. But I would say a majority of the audience went along with it and booed the guy, which is honestly what you want. Like, for example, the next AEW show that I go to, I love MJF. I think he's a great heel. I probably wouldn't cheer the guy. You kind of go along with the act and you give him what he wants and you boo him. I mean, it depends on who it is and how much I like the person and stuff like that. But I would play along and boo him. If it was a face that I didn't like and it's like, God, this guy's terrible or this person's terrible or whatever, I would boo him probably. But you kind of go along with it and you cheer who you're supposed to cheer if it makes sense to do so and boo who you're supposed to boo. So the Tampa crowd, and that's where he's from too. I think he's from Tampa. They played along. And they booed him. So I don't think it's going to be an overwhelming amount of people cheering him. Like, I might be wrong. But come Sunday at Money in the Bank, I don't think Roman will get cheered over Edge. That might be a hot take or a bold thing to say or whatever. I don't think he will be. At WrestleMania, for whatever reason, probably because it was the first show and back in front of fans, Edge was cheered louder than anyone else in that match, including over Roman and even Daniel Bryan. So I think Edge is going to be beloved on Sunday. People haven't seen Edge in person really at all. That's going to be probably the first Texas show that Edge has wrestled at, if that makes sense, since he returned to the ring in January of last year. He only made a handful of appearances in front of crowds. Wait, was that Rumble in Texas? I don't remember. It might have been in Texas, but my point being is that people haven't seen Edge in person in a long time. I know Roman Reigns hasn't wrestled in person in front of people aside from Mania since early last year as well. My point being, though, Edge is more of a featured attraction. He's a beloved legend. I really feel like he's going to get cheered over Roman Reigns, not only on Sunday, but just going forward, which honestly is what you want, though. You don't want your heel coming out and getting an overwhelming amount of cheers, because honestly, if you do that, and it's a majority of the people cheering him, in certain circumstances it makes sense. But if we go that far with it, WWE might hear that and go, oh, let's turn Roman Reigns back face, which is absolutely what we don't want right now. So, like, if it was someone that I wouldn't mind seeing turn face, or if it made sense to turn face, then maybe. And that might be possible. In this circumstance, Roman Reigns should absolutely not be a babyface anytime soon, if ever again, which he absolutely will be at some point. But not right now. So let's not cheer Roman Reigns. Let's make a pact to not cheer Roman to ensure he stays heel for as long as possible. Their second question, speaking of Roman, do you think John Cena versus Roman Reigns at SummerSlam will happen, or Becky Lynch challenging Rhea Ripley happening first? So basically, which do I see happening first? Definitely Cena and Roman. I guess Lesnar's status for SummerSlam is up in the air. He's currently a question mark for the pay-per-view. I think Cena is basically locked in for that show, regardless of what his film schedule looks like, his filming schedule for whatever movie or show he's working on next. I'm pretty sure he's all but confirmed for SummerSlam, and not only at SummerSlam, but facing Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. So I absolutely see that happening first. Becky coming back to face Rhea, though, is very possible. There's a good chance. I think Charlotte wins the championship on Sunday, and then they're going to do another Charlotte-Rhea match at SummerSlam, which I probably wouldn't mind in most cases, but the feud has been so underwhelming, and not because of the women involved, but because of the booking and the weird-ass dynamic, like who am I supposed to cheer for? It's just bizarre. But there is a chance that Rhea finally gets her win over Charlotte on Sunday, and then Becky Lynch comes back in time to challenge Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam. That is definitely possible. What you do with Charlotte from there, and I mean, I doubt they leave Charlotte off SummerSlam. That's why I say they'll probably continue Charlotte and Rhea. Do I want to see a triple threat? Not really. We already got a triple threat with Rhea and Charlotte and Asuka at Backlash like 2 or 3 months ago, so I don't really want to see that. And Becky's match, her first match back, should be a singles match in my opinion. But yeah, maybe that's why they're kind of teetering on the heel line for Rhea, because they want Becky to come back and face her. Very possible. But I definitely see Cena and Roman happening first. With Bayley being out, and a lot of people pitched Bayley versus Becky at SummerSlam. It's a fresh match. We probably have gotten it on the main roster before, but not very many times at all. They've always been kind of separated by the brand split. That would have been an awesome match and a great attraction for SummerSlam that wasn't for a championship, and now Bayley's out for 9 months, so that definitely isn't happening, even if it was being kind of, swatted around before. So the next best person that makes sense for her to face at SummerSlam is not Bianca Belair, but Rhea Ripley, considering she currently holds the championship that Becky Lynch never lost. After a year of being the Raw Women's Champion, she never lost that championship. She vacated it after becoming a mother, upon finding out that she was pregnant, rather. So, that being said, Rhea and Becky make sense, but I'm going to have to go, assuming that Charlotte is going to find her way into that match somehow, I'm going to go with Cena and Roman happening first at SummerSlam, and maybe we get Rhea and Becky at some point down the road. At Jeremy8911 from Twitter, with live crowds coming back, what WWE superstars do you think we'll get very over? That's a great question. Like a lot of people I think have been hurt by the pandemic, and unfortunately with WWE, I mean, they haven't had any fans at all. Like AEW, we kind of have a semblance of who's over to a certain extent and who's not, because, there were some fans in attendance for the last 8 or 9 months. WWE hasn't had any fans at all, aside from WrestleMania. But, like, someone that could have benefited, but, like, for example, like a Rhea Ripley, who, again, like I said, I'm interviewing later today, and it's not her fault, but the dynamic with her, which I'm aiming to ask her about, and how they kind of make her out to be a heel, but she's supposed to be, I think, a face in this feud with Charlotte. It's just fucking confusing. Like, she's a person where if she was called out from the get-go at the Royal Rumble or right before WrestleMania, she would have been cheered. By now, people probably would have cooled off on her because they don't know how to react to her. I feel like we're currently in that same spot. We're not in that same spot anymore come July, because people still don't know how to react to her. We're not in the same spot as we would have been in January, is what I'm trying to say. Like, if she got called up now, people would have gone crazy. But because they already did it earlier this year, and they've cooled her off a little bit, it's kind of like, not that the bloom is off the rose type of thing, because she still feels like one of the more special people in that division over people who are just damaged goods at this point. With Rhea, I don't know. I feel like come Sunday, people just will either boo the Charlotte-Rhea match, or they just won't care. I guess we'll see. I don't know. I'm thinking realistically here. I would love to think optimistically and think, they'll not both get cheered, but like Rhea will get cheered, and I don't know, they just haven't made her out to be likable on Raw recently, so I'm not really sure how they're going to react to that match. So, that being said, like realistically, when fans return this Friday on SmackDown, who do I see getting like, and this includes NXT too. I got 1 name from NXT, 2 from SmackDown, 2 from Raw. Who could I see fans really taking to? I got 5 names for you. I'll start off with the NXT name. They're not going back in front of fans, like full capacity crowds, anytime soon. I think they're starting to tour Florida a bit more, like they were for like the live event loops and whatever, very soon. But beyond that, I don't know when they'll be back in front of like the Barclays Center for TakeOver, or even back at Full Sail. Like Full Sail fits more people and it's just a better crowd, which I never thought I would say, but they are. I fucking hate the Capitol Wrestling Center at this point, which I'll get to a little bit later on. But for one person in NXT, if NXT was held in front of bigger crowds, who was one person I could see really getting over? Cameron Grimes. I mean, that's really no surprise, but I think he's taken very well to the babyface role recently. He's had some great matches. He's currently in the Butler role for LA Knight. So once that runs its course and people really want to see him give LA Knight his comeuppance, it's going to be a great moment. So I think Cameron Grimes will get over massively in front of fans when that day comes. From SmackDown, Bianca Belair. I don't think Bianca, character-wise, has been, I don't know, botched is the word, but mishandled as much as Rhea Ripley has been. Her character is all over the fucking place. I don't know whether to cheer her, boo her, feel indifferent towards her. I'm a big Rhea Ripley fan, but as far as her character goes on Raw, it's very confusing, in my opinion. And again, I just spoke to her. I'm speaking to her today, so I'm hoping to bring up the dynamic thing. Maybe not exactly in those words, because I can't be that straightforward, but I really want to ask her about the fan dynamic thing, because it seems weird to me that she's been booked like a heel at certain points, then a face. I just don't get it. But my point being, Bianca Belair has not been subjected to the same shit that Rhea has been through on Raw recently, creatively. Like, they're both champions, they both won their titles at WrestleMania, but the booking with Bianca, in my opinion, has been far better. People fucking loved Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. They loved the Sasha match. She was super over even then. I think she'll be just as over, if not even more over, come the return of the fans this Friday on SmackDown. I really think Bianca is going to be even a bigger star than she already is when they're back in front of fans. Also from SmackDown, I'll save that person for last, actually. The 2 people from Raw I could see getting over, and it's tough looking at the Raw roster and thinking, this person's really going to benefit from the return of fans, because a lot of the people on Raw are so creatively damaged, where it's like I just don't see a scenario where they get super over unless the booking improves. But that being, like a Ricochet, for example, like the booking, I mean, he won on Monday's Raw, but the booking damage has been done. So how much is it really going to take for people to really rally behind Ricochet again? Because even before the pandemic, people did not give a fuck about Ricochet. I mean, he lost to Brock Lesnar in a minute at Super Showdown. He lost to fucking Riddick Moss in a 24/7 title match, got beat clean in a matter of minutes. And that might have been one of the last pandemic shows, one of the last shows before the pandemic. So, and people were sitting on their hands for Ricochet at that point. That being said, though, I really think Piper Niven, not fucking Dewdrop, it's a stupid name, Piper Niven will get over if and when she eventually turns on Eva Marie. Hopefully they don't rush it. I could see them doing it. I was talking with Mr. Marceau RJ about this earlier. I could definitely see them, as he suggested, and I think this is a great idea, her joining up with Alexa Bliss instead. The issue is, though, with that idea, I want to see I really want to see Piper Niven turn on Eva Marie at some point. Don't rush it. But when the day and time comes for that, it's going to be a big moment because people don't like Eva Marie, and she'll be super hated, I'm sure. And she's playing her role really well since coming back to Raw. Piper turning on her makes sense, and it's going to be a big moment when it happens in front of fans. But then to turn around after she gets over as a babyface, basically, to then just put her with Alexa Bliss doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So maybe she could turn on Alexa Bliss. I don't know. The whole supernatural bullshit with Alexa is just stupid. It is better than Lily. But still, I think that would be, I don't know, you got to map the whole thing out, but I do think Piper Niven turning on one of the top heels in that Raw Women's division would make for a really good moment. And Riddle, I think Riddle from Raw could get really over. I know he's been booked to look like a fucking dumbass on Raw really so far, but the RK Bro stuff, I absolutely see getting really over in front of fans. We haven't had it at all in front of fans. Because it debuted, they started doing the teaming thing with Randy and Riddle, like right after WrestleMania, not at WrestleMania. But I see those two getting over as a team in front of fans, probably winning the Raw Tag Team titles at SummerSlam. Riddle got a good reaction at WrestleMania as it was, and he's had a lot of great matches, and he had a great match at WrestleMania, but he was never really positioned as anyone special, and not that he is now, but, I mean, he beat Drew McIntyre clean a few weeks ago. But, like, he and Randy are just make for the perfect pairing. I think the whole RK Bro thing has been hilarious. So I think that's going to get over big time, a lot like Team Hell No did a few years ago. The last name from SmackDown, I could really see getting over in front of fans. And this isn't a hot take because I've seen other people say the same thing. And it's going to be interesting to see if the fans take to him. But Baron Corbin. I, for one, have been digging the whole despondent Baron Corbin gimmick on SmackDown lately. It's something different. And just because it's I've said that before, like, oh, it's something different, which means it's a positive. That's not always the case. Like, Nikki Cross being a fucking superhero is different. It doesn't make it good. I think that's shit. Maybe she'll get over in front of fans. Who knows? I have more confidence that Baron Corbin, which I never thought I would say, is going to get over before Nikki Cross with his current gimmick because it's something different. It makes sense coming off the King of the Ring thing. He's been playing the role well. I've always liked Baron Corbin, but they've had him been doing the same shit. Every gimmick they fucking have given this guy in the last 2 or 3 years, between being a friggin' TGI Fridays waiter, or rather the GM of Raw, or at least given what his attire was at that time, that's what you would think he'd be. That's where you think he'd be working at that point with the friggin' vest he was wearing. And then, I don't know, just the lack of gimmick after that, and then the King of the Ring shit, like, oh my god, just give this guy something. You know, he doesn't scream a natural babyface at all. He's just so good at being a heel. But that being said, though, it could be a real interesting dynamic with him as a babyface. I don't know about the Happy Corbin shit. That sounds stupid. It sounds like Happy Meal. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. And I think he could get over if people really rally behind him. That's what WWE wants. Is that what they're going to get? That remains to be seen. But I'm digging the storyline, and it's going to be interesting to see how fans take to him come, like this Friday on SmackDown. We're going to get SmackDown in front of fans this week. Will he be on the show, and will he do the gimmick? Will he get cheered? I guess we'll see. Time will tell. Great question. Jeremy's second question, who do you think should win the NXT Breakout Tournament? My money's on Carmelo Hayes. If I'm a betting man, I'm putting my money on Carmelo Hayes, the former Christian Casanova Bebe from Northeast Wrestling. That's how he used to pronounce the name to me when I interviewed him about 5 years ago. That interview, by the way, is here on the channel in the interviews playlist on my channel from 5 years ago. I think I put it up in 2017, but I actually interviewed Carmelo Hayes after an independent wrestling show. And it's a whole story. I've told it before. I don't know if it's been here on hashtag, but me and Zach Donegan, great guy. We went to a Chaotic Wrestling show I think it was 5 years ago in the Massachusetts area. I don't know if that was my first exposure to Christian Casanova, now Carmelo Hayes. It was one of my first viewings of one of his matches. And he was doing like this Prince Michael Jackson gimmick at the time. And he was a great wrestler. The character work just needed work and whatever. But he was nice enough to let him talk to him after the show as I was doing a project for my junior year of college, like final project or something for my podcasting class. And I was doing it on pro wrestling injuries. And it makes it a lot easier for me when I'm doing it on something I actually give a shit about. And I think I aced the project. But I interviewed him, and he gave me some great quotes, and he was a really nice guy. And then I saw more and more in the years that followed in various promotions. I think he did a one-off in Ring of Honor, too, a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. I think he faced Throw Ride Jimmy Preston. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I saw him pop up in Ring of Honor a year or two ago. He's had a lot of great matches recently in Northeast Wrestling. He was their live champion, the NEW live champion earlier this year. Dropped the title and then made his way to WWE, which is super cool. And he's really been impressive in his recent matches against Adam Cole and Kushida. I would go all the way with him. Then again, I saw Duke Hudson last night, the former Brendan Vink, and I was very impressed by him. They made me care more about Brendan Vink in one night, with one match and one video package, than Raw ever did in the handful of appearances he had on Raw last year alongside Shane Thorne. And I like Shane Thorne, but the guy was damaged goods at that point. Who's going to give a fuck about this tag team that was basically a knockoff TM61? Just replace one Australian guy with another, basically, was their mindset. And it didn't work, and they got bumped back to NXT, or at least, Vink did. Thorne stayed on the main roster as a member of Retribution and hasn't been seen since they broke up 3-4 months ago. But Vink went back to NXT. Putting him in a breakout tournament after he was already on Raw is weird, but maybe that's why they gave him the new name. He was impressive, and Wade Barrett made a lot of good points about how he reminds him of him. Like, he gives me Wade Barrett vibes, and I was always a big Barrett fan. The guy can talk, he's got a charisma, he's funny on Twitter, he's not bad in the ring. I like Ike Manjiro, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He's been on 205 Live a lot lately, and he had a good showing as well. But Hudson won, and I think he's another favorite to win the whole thing. Blake Christian was another guy that I could see doing well. He was in a recent match on the show against Kushida. That's not his new name. His new name is Trey Baxter, I think. But I got Carmelo Hayes going all the way and winning the whole thing. That guy Odyssey Jones is a fucking beast. I like Josh Briggs. That guy, what's his name? Andre something? Chase Andre? I don't know. His name was Harlan Bravado in Evolve before WWE signed him. I don't know. He just kind of felt generic to me. Duke Hudson is who I would go with, if not him. Or if not Carmelo Hayes, then Duke Hudson. But yeah, Carmelo Hayes is probably my number one pick. He's great. At noob_n_co 1991, thoughts on Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox making their debut on SmackDown. I find it a bit sudden, but I'm interested to see what direction they go in on the main roster. Yeah, good for them. I talked a bit about it at length, really, in my SmackDown audio review on Saturday. But here are my quick thoughts on it. I think it's a great ad for the SmackDown Women's Division. If you're going to add anyone to that depleted division on SmackDown, these two women are great fits for it. I'm very happy, if anything, just to see Tegan Nox in the main roster, because she is, in the last 4 years, had 3 near career-ending knee injuries. Like, she has literally been out of action for 3 of the last 4 years that she's been with WWE. That's fucking terrible. But she's great. She's a great wrestler. She's got a lot of charisma. She's very likable. I'm a big Tegan Nox fan. And I'm very glad she's on SmackDown. So, the timing of it was weird. Like, they just kind of called them up abruptly, and surprise call-ups are fine, but, like, why not wait a week and do it in front of fans? Like, we have the fucking fans there next week. Not that they would have lost their mind for Shotzi and Tegan, because a lot of people don't watch NXT, but they would have gotten a better reaction than they did in the Thunderdome, which would have been not at all. So that would have been cool. It also is unfortunate because they had 2 good storylines going on in the NXT Women's Division when they just plucked them right off the show. Shotzi never really gave Raquel her comeuppance for attacking her a few weeks ago. Shotzi was never going to beat Raquel, but it seemed like they were building to a Raquel-Shotzi match on the show, maybe for the NXT Women's Championship, and now they can't do it, and they kind of just pivoted to Xia Li in that role instead on last night's show. So we're not going to get Shotzi and Raquel at any point, because Shotzi's on SmackDown. And then even worse off than that, Tegan Nox comes back on Tuesday, debuts on SmackDown on Friday. And she and Candice were never able to have their match. Candice put her on the shelf in storyline last year. And doing a blow-off match between those two would have been great. And now we can't get that because Tegan's on SmackDown. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe they'll do double duty. And no, they weren't on NXT last night. They weren't even mentioned. They were kind of mentioned. Ember Moon, they showed a tweet with Ember congratulating Shotzi and going to SmackDown. And that's great, but it's like, I wish Tegan was still there just to do a match. And maybe Candice beats her. But I guess Vince wouldn't like that very much, so that's a shame. But again, that being said, I'm very happy they're on SmackDown. I would rather them be on SmackDown than Raw, which is just a fucking mess right now. I like Eva Marie and what she's doing with Doudrop, Piper Niven, whatever. The Rhea and Charlotte storyline really should matter more than it currently does. I like the matches, but like the current characters are just not clicking at all. Naomi's just kind of there. I just don't give a shit about Asuka at this point. The Alexa Bliss shit is terrible. The Nikki Ash shit is just not good. It's not for me, certainly. So I'm glad they're on SmackDown. They can have some really fresh matches with really anyone in that division, which isn't a lot of people right now, but it's a step in the right direction. Maybe they win the tag titles. Maybe they can branch off and do their own thing. That's fine. Toni Storm being on the show, I know you didn't ask about her, but Toni Storm also being on SmackDown is a good thing. She needed to go up to SmackDown. Her moving to NXT was great. She really needed that move to NXT, but she really hasn't done a lot on NXT. She went for the championship a few times and lost. She lost to friggin' Zoe Stark at TakeOver, Stand and Deliver. She got her win back, and she's had some really good matches in NXT, but I don't know. I just feel like she was never really going to get above a certain level with so much talent there right now. So her moving to SmackDown makes perfect sense, and she kind of feels like someone to me that's going to get over more in front of a main roster audience than she would in NXT. And that's a very rare case, but I do think she will, regardless of whether she's a face or a heel or whatever. But yeah, very happy for all three of them. At Iwagu91, he said, do you see Johnny Gargano winning his second NXT title tonight, as well as Kofi Kingston winning his second WWE title on Sunday? Well, you sent this on Tuesday before NXT, and clearly Johnny Gargano did not win. I would have said, no, I don't see him winning the championship, although there is a chance. With rumors of Karrion Kross's main roster call-up being imminent, there was a decent chance of Johnny winning last night. So the near falls were great, very suspenseful, very fun match. And then Kross attacked Samoa Joe afterwards. So interested to see where that goes. But yeah, so Gargano did not win. As far as Kofi Kingston goes, no, I don't see him winning the championship on Sunday. They're really laying it on thick that Lashley is having trouble focusing, and that's why he lost to Xavier Woods, which was fucking dumb. The thing is that, yes, we got that great Lashley promo at the end of the show, but you can always have him do something else aside from losing to fucking Xavier Woods. And I like Xavier Woods. He's an undercard competitor. He's never going to be WWE champion. He's not going to be main event material. He's just not. So having him beat Bobby is just very questionable. And again, I know people are saying, well, you can't have that without, you can't have the promo that I'm losing to Xavier Woods. That's not fucking true. That's not true. You can have Bobby do something else where maybe he gets even pinned in a tag team match. Pinned in a tag team match. Singles is just stupid, especially clean. I don't know. It just didn't make a whole lot of sense. And I thought the promo was great, though. To answer your question, I don't think Lashley is losing on Sunday. I like Kofi, but it's just not his time. And for him to be out of the title picture for like a year and a half and then to just kind of shoehorn him back in the title picture because they have no top guys on Raw right now is a problem. It just doesn't make sense. And I know there's fans going to be there. There's going to be fans there on Sunday, and maybe they really rally behind him. There are no matches, really, to me, that make sense for Kofi to have as champion at SummerSlam. I mean, maybe you have Kofi win the championship and they pull a massive swerve and Big E cashes in on Kofi or some shit like that. That would be that is probably the only instance where I would be okay with Kofi winning the championship on Sunday, and I like Kofi. But to have Lashley's reign at the end, end at the hands of Kofi Kingston at this point, this doesn't make sense. Aside from that, what are you going to do? I mean, Kofi and McIntyre again would be fine. You'd have to turn McIntyre heel, so maybe. But I don't know. I feel like there's more marquee matches to be had with Lashley as champion as opposed to Kofi Kingston at this point in time. So maybe Kofi gets screwed and they do another match at SummerSlam. I don't know. Maybe you could do it there. At Money in the Bank, though, I certainly would not have Kofi Kingston win, and I don't think he is going to win. His second question, do you think Roman Reigns was the MVP of the Thunderdome era? Yes, I do. And I struggle to say that because the MVP of the pandemic era was Bayley. Because Roman wasn't there for the first 5 months of the pandemic era. Bayley was, and she and Sasha really carried the Raw and SmackDown women's divisions for a while there. With their matches and segments, they carried the tag team titles, they were in NXT a couple of times. So, yeah, I mean, that's, I don't know. To me, it's Bayley is the MVP of the pandemic era. But if you're saying the Thunderdome era, it's got to be Roman Reigns, because the funny thing is the timing couldn't work out better. Roman Reigns was literally the Universal Champion for 99% of the Thunderdome era. He came back inside the Thunderdome. When the Thunderdome debuted at SummerSlam, I think the first show they did inside the Thunderdome was SmackDown before SummerSlam. The first major show inside the Thunderdome was that Sunday at SummerSlam, and Roman Reigns returned on that show. He won the Universal Championship a literal week later in that arena. He's been champion ever since. He's had great promos, great storylines, great matches with the likes of Daniel Bryan, Edge, Jey Uso, Kevin Owens, Cesaro, Rey Mysterio, and now again Edge on Sunday. I mean, it's got to be Roman Reigns. I mean, Bayley kind of dropped off there for a little bit. She's had a lot of good matches and feuds with the likes of Bianca Belair and people like that, and Sasha inside Hell in a Cell, inside the Thunderdome back in October. The first Hell in a Cell of the pandemic era, not the second one, because we got two. We got one in October and then one in June. It's got to be Roman Reigns. I agree. I think Roman Reigns was indeed the MVP of the Thunderdome era. Your next question, do you think in the segment where the Young Bucks kicking Hangman Adam Page out of the Elite, that Nick Jackson should have called him a loser instead of a jobber? Yeah, that stuff always bothers me. AEW does that a lot. I mean, I know it's one thing if you do it on the YouTube show where they're kind of taking shots at the business and kind of making a joke out of it and shit. That's one thing. I'm almost positive that aired on Dynamite, though. And I'm like, come on, dude, what the fuck is that? I mean, it's not egregious. It's not like, oh, fuck this company. But it's just annoying. Like, TNA used to do that back in the day. I just think using insider terms on the show itself, when you're supposed to believe it's real, it kind of takes you out of it a little bit. Because from a storyline standpoint, why would you ever use the term jobber? You know what I mean? I just think it's weird. So, yeah, they should have called him a loser. Calling him a jobber was a little too tongue-in-cheek for me. Like, oh, look at us. We're using insider terms. I hate when they do that. They do that on the show constantly. Constantly. Especially the Young Bucks. But yeah, I do think they should have called him a loser instead of a jobber. At Reborn Again, John Ritland from the Twitter machine. Check out his show, Real Honesty with John Ritland. Does great content. Thanks as always for sending in questions. To both you, John, and everyone else, you guys are awesome, per usual. I say that every week, but it's worth saying it again. It's worth repeating. His first question was, so do you think NXT should stay in the Capitol Wrestling Center for the weekly show or tour to get some fresh crowd reactions? They got to get the fuck out of that building. That is the bottom line. I said earlier, I am not a CWC fan. I'm a fan of the Cruiserweight Classic from 5 years ago. At this point, yes, the Cruiserweight Classic, the Capitol Wrestling Center has been better than it's still in the Performance Center, but before they had no fans, no screens. They just had wrestlers banging on the glass for the longest time. That was annoying. I thought that was stupid. It was better than no noise, but it still was not ideal at all. So that being said, for the, as far as the Capitol Wrestling Center goes, it has been an improvement over that, but a lot like the Thunderdome, nothing matches actual crowd reactions. And the fans that they do have at the CWC currently don't give a fuck about the show. And when they do give a fuck, they're just weird. Like, they would boo Kyle O'Reilly for, like, literally no reason. They booed MSK for, again, literally no reason. It's just being smarky for the sake of being smarky. If they had a reason to boo these people because they were bad or whatever, I would get it. But it was a really weird dynamic with a lot of the crowd reactions last week at the Great American Bash, and they just don't give a fuck about a lot of stuff. They weren't really on their feet at all for that fatal 5-way main event at TakeOver in your house last month. They kind of just sat on their phones. And the canned reactions are terrible, because they'll have the canned reactions. You'll hear people booing, and then in the background, you just see people on their phone. So clearly, it's not a genuine reaction. It just physically or visually, it's not good. It doesn't come across well. It does not add to the show at all. And I wouldn't blame anyone if they said, listen, NXT's environment just sucks right now. I don't really want to watch the show. That's what a lot of people have said about Impact and Ring of Honor. Like, it has good content. The product is fine, but I can't really watch it without fans. I completely agree with that. I enjoy all these shows, but there is nothing quite like having a live audience. And at a time where you can have live audiences and get the fuck out of certain buildings, which is what a lot of companies are doing now, why wouldn't you take advantage of that? Again, like I said earlier, I think they're going to start touring the state of Florida for the live events, but I'm talking about the weekly show. But even just going back to Full Sail probably wouldn't solve all their problems, but it would be a nice change of scenery. Say whatever you want about Full Sail, and I've said my fair share over the years on this very show as well, when like Austin Aries would come out, and they just wouldn't give a fuck. I'm like, people... they're spoiled, they're entitled, they see the show it's the same fucking 5 or 6 people. Like, you see the same people at these shows every fucking week. So no shit, they're just not going to give a shit about these people when they come out, when you see the same people every week. It's like, I blame the fans, but WWE, NXT, whatever, has got to get the fuck out of that arena. They got to go either on the road or back to Full Sail. And again, Full Sail has the same issue. It's a lot of the same people every single week. But for whatever reason, it was livelier. Probably because they had more people. Just the fact that it's the fucking Performance Center is just, it screams Bush League. I mean, you could even say the same thing about Full Sail, like I said. But it has a bigger a bigger feel to it than the fucking PC does. Like when NXT and Dynamite were running on the same night, I don't blame anyone at all for watching Dynamite over NXT, for the atmosphere alone, when there were fans. Because even pre-pandemic, NXT was in Full Sail, and they've been in Full Sail for almost 10 years now, and I understand they had that relationship, or at least they did. But as far as atmosphere goes, and it makes a big difference, you can have 2 of the greatest matches of all time on both shows, but people are more inclined to watch the Dynamite show because they have more fans, and they're in an actual building, like Raw would be, or SmackDown, or whatever. So I just don't get it. As far as the... with NXT and them staying in the CWC, I haven't heard anything about Full Sail, them going back there, which is unfortunate. But yeah, it doesn't matter whether they get back on the road or just go back to Full Sail. They got to get out of the CWC. It is not helping the weekly show at all. I've enjoyed the weekly show a lot lately. They've been putting forth some of their best content since moving to Tuesdays lately. But they got to get out of that building. And I really hope they do. If only just for a takeover. To go to one of those bigger arenas again, like a Brooklyn, like a Chicago, like a Barclays Center or an Allstate Arena, or really anywhere. Even Portland was white hot when they went there for TakeOver right before the pandemic started. That was a great TakeOver back in February of last year. So they really, really, really just got to get back on the road or just out of that building is the bottom line. His second question, hate to sound like a broken record, but what was the deal with AEW doing nearly 2-hour-long editions of Dark Elevation and Dark? Hell, Dark was just leftovers from their time in Jacksonville. I don't know, brother. You know as well as I do. I don't know. I don't get it. It was so refreshing last week to have a Dark Elevation episode be 43 fucking minutes. I'm like, holy shit, this is a godsend. This is amazing. It makes my job a hell of a whole lot easier. The show was a lot better. They were in front of some fans. It was a great environment. And then, yes, Dark Elevation was in front of fans this week. They taped it. I couldn't tell if it was before Dynamite or after Dynamite. I thought it was after Dynamite, because why the fuck would you film 2 hours of wrestling before a live Dynamite? You're going to burn out your crowd before the show even starts. But then I noticed people not leaving the arena, but walking back into the arena at the end of the Elevation taping. So... I don't know. I maybe it was beforehand. I thought it was after. I don't really know. But after 2 hours of Dynamite to give them another 2 hours of wrestling is just... It's not smart. If the show was an hour... Because they were hot for those first few matches. And they fell asleep for a while before coming back alive for the main event featuring Darby Allin and I think it was in Helico. Was it in Helico? Pretty sure it was in Helico. Yeah, I mean, 2 hours is just way too much. So if it was an hour, perfect. I think that's amazing. That's what it was before. They used to tape Dark after Dynamite previously. I went to a Dynamite taping, the second ever they ever did in Boston, with RJ and Alexis. Great time. They filmed Dark afterward, and it was a long night, but it was worth it. And they did fucking Kenny Omega and Joey Janela in like a one of those lights out matches. So it was a long taping, but still, it was fun and people enjoyed it. And it was a lot better afterward than it was before Dynamite. And you don't want to kill the crowd before the show even starts, like I said. As far as Dark goes, like you said, the show is filmed at Daly's Place. They give this whole grand farewell, oh, we'll miss you, Daly's Place. It was really just to the fans in Daly's Place because, they'll be back there in a couple of weeks, which is just way too fucking soon. But they were back there with Dark this week. There were no fans there. There were just the enhancement wrestlers and the indie wrestlers and stuff like that, the local athletes, as they would say, as WWE would say. But the atmosphere was fucking terrible. It was like, oh. It reminds me of this pandemic era. I do not want to be reminded of the pandemic era by going back to empty arenas. I know the idea of these shows is to boost people's win-loss records, give them more exposure, more experience. I am all for that. I really agree. I love the idea of the Dark shows, especially when you have win-loss records. I've complained before when people beat the same fucking 10 jobbers. It doesn't really mean anything, but I understand why they do it. But there's no reason to have 2-hour shows. Powerhouse Hobbs, Brian Cage had the same fucking matches on Tuesday that they did on Monday, except on Tuesday, there were no fans there. I'm like, what is this shit? Like, there were a lot of matches that did not need to happen. Wheeler, Yuta, and Angelico in the main event was very good, but I had to sit through like fucking 2 hours and 18 squash matches in order to get to it. Or 17, because that was the 18th. It's way too fucking much. It's way too much. So, I don't know what the hell is going on with their taping schedule. I've said this before. I imagine, as I've read, they're probably going to tape Dark or Dark Elevation on Fridays before or after Rampage, and then save the other Dark show for Dynamite before or after Dynamite, and do it that way. I got to tell you right now, though, they cannot continue to do either of these shows at Daly's Place. Unless they're there for Dynamite or Rampage, they can't. They can't. It's just not, it's not good. The show was just, it was so fucking boring. And they've made the most out of it in the last year, but like, if you have an option to do it in front of a crowd, then why wouldn't you do that? And thankfully, Rampage is coming up in a month, so we won't have to wait much longer. I assume it's going to continue to be taped at Daly's Place, but like, then again, even if you're going to do it there, do it for an hour. 2 hours in front of no fans in a building we've seen just that has been completely overexposed for the last year and a half is a bad choice. So hopefully they'll do it back in front of fans when Rampage starts up in a couple weeks. But when you do that, again, make the shows an hour. 90 minutes tops. There is no reason for either of these shows to exceed the 60 or 90 minute mark. It's just completely pointless. I know they have a lot of people on their roster, but when you're putting the same people on both shows, having the same matches both times, if this was WWE, the complaints would be ridiculous. People would be complaining nonstop, oh, they're overexposed, blah, 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 because they fucking would be. But when AEW does it, no one bats an eyelash. All right, whatever. Moving on. That's AEW, some AEW fans for you. Not everybody, but some people. John's next question. As crowds come back for more promotions, which specific company do you think need crowd reactions in order to improve their product? Good question. I mean, cop-out answer, but really every promotion. Raw is just unbearable. It was a little bit better this week, but it's just not a good show. Having fans there to, hold WWE accountable for their shit will improve the overall show because they'll boo on the bad shit and they'll praise what needs to be praised and all this other stuff. Like, that'll make it a little bit better. It won't be, a much better show overnight, but it's better than having no fans there. So Raw will improve. SmackDown's been a good show with or without fans. I think having fans back will be better, but it'll be a better show with fans, and it's been fine. It's been pretty good without fans. Impact, I've seen a lot of people say like the product itself is good, and I've watched it, obviously. I watch it every week, and I have for the last 10, 12, 13 years. It's a good product. The biggest issue against it right now is that there are no fans. And they weren't having sellout crowds anyway. They were only doing shows in front of like a couple 100,000 people, whatever. But it's better than nobody. They really do need an audience there. And I think Slammiversary will have fans, which is great. Impact, I think more than any other promotion, needs fans. Ring of Honor, they have no noise at all. Like, even Impact started doing the can noise and whatever. Ring of Honor doesn't have any of that. And to a certain extent, it works. And they've had a lot of great matches in Ring of Honor. But Best in the World was really enhanced by the crowd reactions. They need more fans in the audience. They need fans, period. So Ring of Honor, NXT and Dynamite, as I've said before, Alexis and I talked about this last week, a big component of those shows, even over Raw and SmackDown, was the crowd. Like, the best parts of NXT and AEW pre-pandemic were the audiences in attendance. So, Dynamite last week, Alexis said it was one of the best shows she's ever seen. I didn't really have to go back and think about that, but it was a great show. It was a really, really fun show. And a big part of that was the fact that it was in front of a hot crowd. Will every crowd be that hot? No. But, it's better than having, again, limited fans at Daly's Place or no fans or whatever. So AEW is really going to benefit from having fans back. Definitely. It's going to overall improve the viewing experience for these shows. And then NXT, definitely. NXT needs to be back in front of more people. It's a very good show lately, but it feels Bush League because there's so few people there and the can noises are just not good. NXT and Dynamite, in addition to Impact, probably will benefit more than any other promotion, brand, whatever, by having fans back for sure. At the Average Grunt from Twitter, why do you think we don't see that many Tornado tag team matches in WWE? I'm glad that there's still a fun match. There's still a fun match type that hasn't been driven into the ground, but I feel like it's oddly rare for something so simple in concept. Yeah, you're right. We never really see Tornado tag team matches in WWE. We saw one in NXT recently with the Grizzled Young Vets against Thatcher and Ciampa, which was a great match. It was a takeover level match. It was a great match. We saw one earlier this year, I remember, with Lucha House Party and Benjamin and Alexander. I don't think it was it might have been for the Raw Tag Team titles, but it was a fun match either way. That was good. There's been others. I remember, this is 10 years ago. I remember when they're being on Raw. There was one on Raw about 10 years ago. It was The Miz. Was it The Miz? I know it was Alex Riley and Rey Mysterio. Maybe Evan Bourne. I don't fucking remember. But it was on the Pipe Bomb episode, I think. I'm pretty sure it was on the episode where the Pipe Bomb dropped on June 27, 2011. It was like Alex Riley and Rey Mysterio versus, I think, Jack Swagger and The Miz? Maybe? Either way, it was a fun match. It was a very fun match. I remember one from 5 years ago, which I was in attendance for, between the Usos and Anderson and Gallows at Extreme Rules. So yeah, Tornado tag team matches are very rare. You're right. We don't see enough of them. We see elimination tag team matches every year as part of Survivor Series, but we never really see Tornado tag team matches all that much. But again, like you said, I don't want to see them every month. I feel like we have last minute standing matches all the time. We have Extreme Rules matches all the time. No DQ. No holds barred, street fight, steel cage. Oh my god, fucking strap matches over the last year have been done to death, both WWE and AEW specifically. But yeah, Tornado tag team matches we don't really see all that often, and I think they call it an AEW Lucha Rules or whatever, and then it's something different. But either way, a Tornado tag team match, I'm all for it, and hopefully we do see more of them in the future. We have seen at least 2 lately between Raw and NXT. That might have filled the quota for the year. But they got to do, if I can only name 4 in the last 10 years, which I'm sure there's been more, but we don't even get one a year. Sometimes we get one every couple of years. So hopefully we start to see more of those because they're always a blast, like you said. At E13A, we'll close out. There are 3 questions here. What's next for Johnny Gargano? I don't know. He was in full-on babyface mode last night. No dumb headband, like he wasn't in heel mode at all. No way. Austin Theory wasn't out there. No Candice LeRae, no Indy Hartwell. He was all by himself. So, I don't know. It felt to me that main roster could be next. I don't know if it is, though, because we've said that before, and he always stays put. At this point, I'm convinced he's not going anywhere. He really should, more than anyone, move to Raw or SmackDown, because I think he could really benefit from a move after being in NXT for literally forever. He's been there since 2015. He's got to move on. But I don't know, because they quickly moved on from Gargano. He tapped out to Cross, and then he just kind of rolled out of the ring, and that was the last time we saw of him. The focus shifted to Samoa Joe and Karrion Kross. What do you even do with Gargano at this point? Maybe you put them in the tag team division. Does he go back to being a heel with Theory? I guess. Does he stay a babyface, if he even was really a babyface to begin with? Putting him back in the North American title picture, I'm done with that. He's been there so much in the last year or so. I'm done there. He's already had his shots. He's already had his shots at the NXT Championship. I'm kind of done with that too. Him back in the tag team ranks with Theory as his partner could be fun. And maybe they collide with Ciampa and Thatcher for the tag titles. That would be really cool to see. I know people fucking hate Gargano and Thatcher, that rivalry being revisited. But it's been long enough to where if they did it in a tag team match, I think that'd be cool. So I would like to see that. Will it happen? I don't know. But that's probably what I would do. If not, I mean, do you put him in the fucking Cruiserweight title picture? I don't know. He's already feuded with Kushida, so probably not, but I don't know, man. I really don't know. I think he's going to stay put in NXT, but if it was up to me, I'd probably just put him on SmackDown. Does he go it the entire way? Maybe. Well, does he even have a future on SmackDown? I don't know. I really don't. Like, if he gets called up as a babyface and feuds with Apollo Crews for the Intercontinental Championship, that would be cool. I'd be for that. If they called him up as a heel, I just don't think people would get it. Because the big part of the heel Gargano character arc was that he was a babyface first. He is entertaining as a heel, but I feel like SmackDown would just not give this guy the time of day at all. So, I really don't know. He'd have to be called up as a babyface to SmackDown. If not, he probably is just going to stay where he is. His next question, when do you expect Hangman Adam Page to win the AEW World Championship? I mean, there's no way that they're building to it now and not going to do it at All Out. I mean, your question is, when is he going to win it? Not when they'll do the match. So, they could very easily do the match at All Out and have Omega win. But my thing is, and yes, they could build up the redemption story, and maybe it's amazing, and maybe Hangman wins the championship at Full Gear. That is in what? 4 months? Hangman will very likely still be popular by that point. But like, we got 2 months until All Out. They're not rushing into the match at all. They got plenty of time to build up Omega and Page. I feel like the time is now to put the belt on him. If he loses, and they just wait until Full Gear, maybe the reaction is not going to be as loud as it would have been in Chicago. I understand Full Gear is where he lost to Omega last year. I would do the rematch there personally, with Hangman, retaining the title on that night against Omega. I know that's where Omega beat Page last year, but remember, it was at All Out where Page lost 2 years ago in his first shot at the AEW World Championship to Chris Jericho. So, I don't know. And they're in Chicago. It's going to be a rowdy crowd, already sold out. I would do it at All Out. I mean, selfishly speaking, I'll be there, so I really just want to see it live. But I really think they should do it at All Out and not wait until Full Gear. Maybe my mind changed on that. Maybe it will change on that. Maybe in the coming weeks or months, I'm like, you know what? He's not quite there yet. He's close. He's sniffing the title, but he's not quite there yet. Let's wait until November. Either way, I personally would do it at All Out, but maybe something will change in the coming months that'll convince me they should wait until November to do it. His last question, what's going to happen this Sunday at WWE Money in the Bank? So as of right now, and my predictions could change between now and then, I think Big E's going to win the men's Money in the Bank briefcase. I do. Because if you really think about it, Rollins is probably the next, not even just best choice, but like the most logical choice given his current story with Roman Reigns. I don't know. I feel like with Rollins, he's done it before. He can always go for the championship even without the briefcase. So I don't really want to see him win it again. I'm done with like the repeat winners. Just give it to someone new, which I'll get to in a moment with the women. Owens is not winning. Who else is in it? Owens. Nakamura's not winning as the King of the Ring. He's not winning. Or the King Nakamura shit, whatever. From Raw, Ricochet is not winning. Morrison is not winning. Riddle's not winning if he's in the tag team title picture soon. And McIntyre could win, but I think with his current feud with... They're not going to have him feud with Jinder while Mr. Money in the Bank. I mean, they could, but I feel like they'd be fucking dumb. I really hope they don't have Drew win. I think that'd be stupid. He just lost the championship. I mean, it was a couple of months ago, but he was just in the title picture. He doesn't need the briefcase, and I don't want to see him have the briefcase. So my pick is Big E. If not Big E, it'll probably be Seth Rollins. For the women, I've got Liv Morgan, actually. Now, it could be a surprise. Sonya entering herself and winning would be great. Natalya is fucking terrible. I really don't want to see Natalya win, obviously, and I don't think she will win anyway. You have them. Zelina Vega is not winning. Is that it from SmackDown? Morgan, Vega, Natalya, and then a mystery opponent. It could be Sasha, but again, Sasha doesn't need the briefcase. Just have her come back and challenge Bianca, and that's all you need. That's it. From Raw, Asuka, no, been there, done that. Nikki Cross, no thanks. Alexa Bliss, been there, done that. And Naomi was my pick a couple of weeks ago when people asked me, who's your early pick? But now that we have Liv Morgan officially in there, I think Liv Morgan has a better chance of winning than Naomi. They just don't care about Naomi. They just don't. I like Naomi a lot. And also, Liv is a fresher face in the title picture, and she's improved. I mean, Naomi's would be a fresh face in the title picture, too. She hasn't gone for the Raw Women's Championship at all. But at the same time, she's been champion before. Liv Morgan never has. It's a nice opportunity for her. As for the rest of the pay-per-view, I don't think Lashley's losing the championship, his WWE title. I don't think Roman Reigns is losing the Universal Championship. I think we will get a new Raw Women's Champion in Charlotte Flair. And I do think we are going to get still, I phrased that weird, I don't think AJ and Omos are dropping the Raw Tag Team titles is what I was going to say. They probably moved that to the pay-per-view because it was scheduled for Raw on Monday, the first Raw back in front of fans this year. I think they moved it from Raw to Money in the Bank because Bianca's defending the championship on SmackDown and not on the pay-per-view. That's probably why. So, yeah, that's what I envision happening this Sunday at Money in the Bank. I think it'll be a good show. I always enjoy Money in the Bank. I've never seen a bad Money in the Bank pay-per-view. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully it's a fun show. And especially having fans there, too, is really going to enhance the enjoyment of the show for a lot of people. So, again, I look forward to it. And thank you guys, as always, for sending in your questions. I appreciate it. If you want to send in a question, please do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a question on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Two last things, folks. Check out hashtag AskGSM, episode 400, likely live in 2 weeks' time. Obviously, we got 399 next week. Don't overlook that one. Send in your questions for next week for that one. Maybe maybe the hashtag for that 400th episode will be hashtag AskGSM 400. And then we'll do it live. Again, what time, I have no idea. Usually I don't know until like a couple days before, the day before, that fucking morning. I have no idea. My schedule's all over the place. But we're hoping to do it live that day. And then also, as I said earlier, check out my exclusive interview with the Raw Women's Champion, Rhea Ripley, dropping this Friday on Bleacher Report and in audio form right here on the channel. So be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe. And hit that bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up. We got daily content every single day between the Q&A videos on Wednesdays, Raw Talk reviews on Tuesdays. We got low-key reviews, a Black Widow review is coming soon. We break down SmackDown in audio form every Saturday, talking smack. You name it, I talk about it. And Broken Skull Sessions, if they actually put it up this fucking weekend, so keep an ear out for that as well in the coming days. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.